let us continue. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I am going to close this completed version of the project, which is running in one instance of Unity, and then I have another instance of Unity. I have an error in the console, which is because I had to rebuild the library because I deleted some stuff. I'm going to clear that. And let's switch over into 2D mode so that we can see our canvas here. We're not actually going to need to do any editing in the scene view, so it's okay. And then if you haven't already, just double click the loading screen to open it. And then your editor should look roughly similar to mine, but don't worry too much about it because we're going to be mainly doing some scripting. So the first thing that we are going to write is going to be our two data classes, tiny little data classes, which are going to be stored in a single script called localization data. So we are going to right click on the scripts folder, create a C# script, and call that localization data. And we're going to double click that to open it up in everybody's favorite editor, MonoDevelop. And I'm going to make my 1, 2, 3 font bigger. And then, so this is actually going to be not going to be a mono behavior. It's going to be a regular C# script. So we're not going to need start, update. We're not going to inherit from mono behavior, and we're not going to need any of these namespace declarations. And we're going to have two tiny classes in here. We're going to have localization data and localization item, which is a class. So we're going to have a public class localization data and a public class localization item. And before we start writing localization item, we're going to give it the system.serializable attribute. And we're doing this because we're going to want to be able to serialize and deserialize it into and from JSON. And I'll talk briefly about what serialization, JSON, and so on are. If you want a deeper dive on that stuff, please check out the second half of the quiz game training that we did, where I spent a fair amount of time just talking about what is JSON and what is serialization and so on. I don't want to cover that again here, so I'll just do sort of brief explanations, but check that out if you're curious. So in localization item, we're going to have two variables. We're going to have a string, a public string called key, and a public string called value. And we want them to be public, both so that we can access them from outside the class and so that they can be serialized. And so we are also going to then, in localization data, have a public array of the class that we just wrote, localization items. And that is going to be called items. And so we are going to take the data from the JSON file, load each key value pair into a localization item, and then put each of those into an array of items, which we are then going to use to fill our dictionary. So let's save this and return to Unity.